when in doubt, sew, fail, and sew again. Yep, that's what we do here. Welcome back, detectives. This is the final installment of the character reveal series of Clue. And today we introduce Miss Scarlett. If this is your first time here, hi, my name is Stephanie Canada. I deal with all types of fun things: vintage, sewing, thrifting, all with heavy doses of sarcasm. If you enjoy those kind of things, make sure you click the subscribe button. And if you decide you like this video, hit the like button, share it with a friend, comment down below. All of these things help me in the magical, mystical YouTube algorithm that really no one understands, but we try. And if this is your first time in our Clue series, I do advise you go back and watch all the other previous characters, otherwise you might be a little confused. However, if you're just here for the sewing, come along. I do lots of it in this video. Now folks, a quick reminder about our contest. Throughout this video, this is the video you comment on with who done it, with what, and where. Make sure you're leaving your Instagram handle so that way I can DM the winner to get their prize. It's just a lot easier for me to contact you through Instagram than it is to attempt to do it on YouTube. I will then be going off of the timestamps of this video, not like the time in the video where you guess it, like the date and time when you comment. Helps if I clarify. And then, once you have given a guess on this video, in the October 30th reveal video, I will be announcing the winner of the contest, who can choose from either a $10 Amazon gift card or $25 to my store, www.backroomfinds.com. So make sure you're keeping a keen eye out for the last couple of clues through here so that you can make an educated guess. So for Miss Scarlett, I had this grand desire to find some vintage sheets, use this lovely vintage pattern, which I do adore and was a bigger pain in the butt, but we'll get there eventually. And I wanted to make this awesome upcycled dress with a little bit of vintage and, well, sometimes things don't go to plan. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and walk you through my original idea and what actually happened. Come along and let's get going. So my initial idea was red sheets plus pattern equals dress. The downside is this particular pattern requires a lot of fabric. And every time I went into a Goodwill, nope. No, not that one either. Sunscreen. Check. Glasses. Check. Let's go. Definitely not. I would find maybe one vaguely good option or two that were similar but not quite close enough. And I don't know if y'all have realized this about me yet, but I'm a little anal retentive when it comes to things matching nicely. Now, I might just screw things up on occasion and just say screw it because I'm tired of it, but a lot of the times I do actually try. So, I came home, sucked it up, and dug through my massive vintage fabric stash. I know most of this should go on my website, but I'm really tired, and a lot of the times I've taken pictures of these and I've lost the photos. Don't ask me how. So here it is, the vintage fabric that is going to be the bane of my existence, some black velvet that I had lying around, and please ignore that red. I didn't end up using it. But first, yes, I must indeed do a mock-up, because I have no idea what's going on with these shoulder darts, but I know I need to try it first. That's right, occasionally Stephanie does a mock-up. So I did the unfathomable and unfolded the factory folded pattern. And did I iron it before I put it on the ground? No, I did not. Hi, have you met me? This is me in my kitchen trying on my mock-up, and well, I did have to size this one up just a little bit in the bodice and a little bit at the waist. I did some creative math and then just said screw it and did whatever I pleased. So once that was all said and done, I did go ahead and pop it onto my ironing board because I'm not a complete heathen and would actually like to wear this at some point other than just for this video. You can see here my tracing skills were only so successful. And this is my attempt at what I think is the correct cutting line. I tried that and it puckered really oddly, so I decided just to throw caution to the wind and cut it all the way to the shoulder. And the upside about using the pattern paper is that you can just jam your pencil straight through to do the same notches because I'm too lazy to bother to stab them through with my needle and thread. The sleeve. Well, as you can see, sometimes the straight of grain even from the manufacturer is just an idea. Now for the sleeve, I knew I needed a little bit more room, didn't know how much, just guessed. Then I added in a little bit more, added a new straight of grain, and moved on to the cuff, which was, vaguely successful. So with my pattern, hopefully my size now, I do go ahead and cut it out in the original fabric because, well, why not? The biggest issue with this fabric is that it was approximately 35 inches wide, and while it was 5 yards, I barely made it. I mean, I actually barely made it. I probably had approximately 3 inches on one end and 3 inches on the other, and that was it. Because of, that's right, my two least favorite words, pattern matching. And now, to cut. Now on day 2, I did start by cutting out the entire rest of the thing. Okay, no I didn't. I left the cuffs, the lining for the cuffs, the collar, the lining for the collar, all the interfacing pieces till later, and well, that might have been a little bit of my problem. And then I started to pin things together and sew them because when in doubt, I'm just going to jump ahead of a step than I need to. So to start off, I had to deal with those weird little darts at the shoulder. They are odd. They didn't line up on the mock-up, nor did they line up on the finished dress. Oh well. And it did tell me to make sure I pressed those in for the very first instruction, which reads, waist with convertible collar. Make an outside tuck at shoulder of waist front and waist back, creasing on small perforations. Sew 1 inch from creased edges and press. After I had done my odd little 1-inch darts along the shoulder seam, I realized that I had indeed missed some stay stitching, so I made sure to do that real quick before diving into, and I can't believe I'm saying this without stalling massively, dart waist back and skirt back, basting and stitching the corresponding sets of small perforations together to a point at single perforation, and press. Now, did I baste things? No, of course I did not. I used pins, and then I sewed. And then I always did my handy-dandy little tie at the end to keep them from fraying and creating too much bulk. I haven't completely changed. So once everyone was darted and happy, we popped over to the ironing board and pressed those darts to the center. And by that time, yes, it was time for a refill in my awesome Halloween cat mug. Now that I'm feeling slightly better after having a serious jolt of caffeine, I'm going to move on to number 3. Join shoulder and side seams as notched, easing slight fullness across back shoulder to fit front. Even with the easing, I still was not able to make these weird little Star Trek-like tucks line up. They're about 1/8 of an inch off. Does it really bother me? No. Is it probably because I adjusted something incorrectly? Yes. Do I know what that is? No, I do not. But at the end of the day, the print's so busy that you don't really notice unless you're looking really close at my shoulders. And in 2020, all I have to say is, give me 6 feet. Oh, but of course, before I could actually do this, I realized that I had indeed forgotten a notch. Not sure how I pulled that off, but I did. So I had to pop a notch in real quick so it didn't look like complete hot garbage. And now I'm moving on to step number 4. Turn front of waist over on small perforation, right sides meeting, stitch neck edge from the front edge to the large perforation, clip at end of sewing. Well, fun fact, if you're using the 1/2 inch seam allowance as it is written on this pattern, that doesn't work out even a little. So I sort of made it work, and it doesn't look completely terrible, so I guess whatever I did actually worked. But it wouldn't be one of my videos if the seam ripper didn't come out, because my tension on my bobbin was way too tight all of a sudden. Something had gotten caught. I don't really know what happened. So I have to rip out this hot garbage and try again. Much better. Now the final part of step 4 reads, turn front to inside, press, baste neck edge as notched. Which, believe it or not, I actually did. Look at me go, hand sewing on occasion. And yes, it was more helpful. I can hear all of you, I know. And because I am perpetually lazy, I opted to, well, completely skip steps and do them in the order so that I don't have to change the thread out nearly as often. So I jumped all the way to step number 12, which was sew skirt front to side front, matching triple notches, joined side skirt seams as notched. Basically, let's do the entire skirt portion so that I don't have to change out to the black thread, because I don't wanna. And despite my best efforts of trying to pattern match this while I was cutting it out, I still have some room to grow. Oh well. And even though I had the white thread still loaded in, I did actually opt to sew the little triangular sections, the flappy bits in the front, with the white thread. Maybe not my best choice, but it's what I chose to do, so here we are. I interfaced only one side of the black flap, which actually ended up being the front, even though I thought it would be the back, but it looked so terrible that I was like, oh, I guess this is going to be the front now, because on the back side, the fabric is so sheer. You can see everything, the fold, it was terrible. So I just went ahead and made that the front side instead. After pinning those together, and then, oh yeah, cutting out the ones on the fabric, which was decisively a little bit more difficult, although I like it. It did end up close to correct. Each one is slightly off from the center, you know, the graphic portion, but it's not the end of the world. And yes, I used my Friction pen because I live in Florida, and the possibility of those blue marks coming back when it is perpetually 84 outside is slim to none. Now to finish off the seams inside these little flaps, I did go ahead and pull out my pinking shears, which if you've been on this channel for a minute, you will remember is sort of like watching a dog gnaw on an old bone, but I did manage to make them work. However, the more challenging task seemed to have been turning them right side out and getting the points to be pointy. I'm just going to speed you through this because it was painful to do. I can't imagine how it would be to watch it. So in my excitement of trying to get this done late at night, I definitely forgot to record the sewing of the sleeve together. So here we are over at the ironing board, ironing out that flat on my new-to-me tailor's ham that I picked up at the Goodwill bins for the price that it weighs. This is the part of the night where my tired had definitely gotten the better of me. Here I am trying to set in this sleeve, which is difficult even when you are awake and alert, and nigh on impossible when you're exhausted. Here I am, trying to pin, doing my best, only to realize that because of my rampant jumping around, I had distinctly missed instruction number 9, which stated, gather top of sleeve between notches for ease. And this is why my sleeve wasn't fitting at all. And being foiled by my sleepiness, I did bust myself back over to the sewing machine to run some gathering stitches, and then repin these bad boys so that they actually sat inside the sleeve holes, because I wasn't going to go to bed without this thing having sleeves on it. On to day 3, where I realized I could no longer put off the challenge of transitioning to black thread. So after I did that, I made sure to top stitch down on the black little flap section just because I wasn't really impressed with how rounded the interfacing had made the corners. It actually did do quite nicely, and now I'm wishing I would have done that to the red and white one. I thought about it, and then forgot. And after finishing up that top stitching, I had to actually deal with the collar, which, when I had done the back section, I had made the back actually 5/8 inch on either side larger so that I could actually, have ease and move. And I had done the same to the collar, which made me very, very scared. And the other thing about the collar is that, I only had a scrap of velvet left, so those straight of grain marks were indeed just a suggestion that I promptly tossed out the window. So it sort of sits the way it's supposed to. No, it really doesn't, but it's fine. It's just fine. And once that was all done, sewn, and turned and pressed, I did make sure to lay down a piece of velvet before you come at me for pressing velvet. I wasn't actually looking for crushed velvet in this one, so I did attempt to do it correctly. Here we are, looking at the sewing of the collar, which, do you see it? No? Okay. Just keep watching. And yes, I'm aware I sewed over pins, but trust me, in this moment that is the least of my problems. In 3, 2, 1. Shit. I have just sewn the collar on completely the wrong direction. I had right side of velvet to the right side of the fabric, which, in case you're following along, is, big shocker, not right, it's wrong. Can you sense the pun? No? Okay, we're gonna move on. So I completely ripped the collar off and did it again. This time making sure to actually pin it on the correct way, which is the right side of the velvet to the wrong side of the material. I know, counterintuitive, but it works. And after trimming away some excess and really making sure to do a whip stitch over so that nothing would super fray on the inside of the collar. I moved on to the other thing that I had completely ignored, the cuffs. That's right, I didn't cut out the cuffs until after I had attached the collar. Are you seeing why this project took me longer? I am. Again, because this is a scrap of velvet, I can't be bothered with straight of grain. I don't know why I even bothered to mark it on the piece. So we're going to attempt to make this line up. I had graded down the sleeve so that by the time I got to the cuff of the sleeve section, I had 7/8 of an inch seam allowance, where I had started at 1/2 inch, to try and take away some of the bulk that I had added in the grading up process. Now, I had attempted to do something similar to the cuff, and it only passively worked. But once I had it all pinned down and cut out, I then went to go make sure I interfaced the linings. Well, when I had done that, I had done the notches completely wrong, so on the cuffs, the notches didn't really line up on one of them because I interfaced the same side of both pieces. You shouldn't do that. Don't be me. Be better than me. Now comes the portion where I looked at these cuffs forever. It took me forever to figure out how to sew these things on. What I ended up with was the right side of the lining section, which of course is a different material because I had to make things harder for myself, contact with the right side of the sleeve, and then sew that down. And then I did understitching, which I had hoped would help hold it up along with the interfacing. It did not. It did not. Because velvet is heavy. Should I have pad stitched something to the velvet? Yes, probably. Do I have anything to do that with? No, I do not. So I just made it work. And now, unfortunately, I had to jump back to my white thread to attach the little flappy bits. Yes, flappy bits is absolutely a technical term on this channel. I pinned them basically ignoring all the notches and making sure that the flaps lined up with the seams as they did on the line drawing, because I had also made this seam 5/8 inch wider on either side past the pattern so that was my new seam allowance. Again, it did work. However, it meant that this was the portion where those just didn't line up. Those notches were all a lie. A dirty, dirty lie. So I sewed them on the seam and it looks fine. And just to show what a fantastic YouTuber I am, I completely forgot to show you how I did a gathering stitch on the bodice, then pulled it to meet the notches, then sewed the entire waist together. Thought I had that footage, apparently it disappeared. So here we are looking at my stay-taped waist, and the dress is basically together. And in my exhaustion, again, this is late at night. If you see the sleeve pop on, you can tell. I definitely added the stay tape, perfectly fine, no big deal. And then I thought that top stitching down over top of it would actually hold it in place. Well, I was incorrect, and it actually ended up being below the stay tape for the entire time because I was, big shocker, top stitching very closely, which means that it didn't really hold anything. So I did have to hand stitch that all down. And now we get to the point where I'm praying that I did all these notches right with the adjustments. And while there was a little bit of wiggle room, it actually did all line up for this button placket folding over. I ironed it down so that it would be nice and crisp for me. And then I realized I hadn't decided what buttons to use. So I dug through my vintage button stash, and I actually ended up with the very first thing I pulled. But they're these weird sort of heavier shanked buttons. They've got a rub off point, so they're definitely not Bakelite. I don't know what they are, but you can't see the fact that they're rubbed away from a distance, so I don't care. Day 4, where lots of work was done. But I guess I'll just show you the fact that I actually did buttonholes on my fancy machine. There was also the standard, well, you know, hem the dress, tack up the cuffs because they're not going to stay down once you've tacked down the velvet and realize that it's far too heavy. But I think the most glorious thing is the fact that I did 10 buttonholes in the span of 45 minutes, whereas normally one hand-sewn buttonhole takes me a half hour. So Hooray for me conquering another technical aspect of this machine. Who knows, I might eventually learn all the things it can do. But enough of that. Let's introduce Miss Scarlett. She could not be still, no matter how hard she tried. She could never quite shake the feeling of being under eye. The first storm brought death to this weary old place. Maybe the second, in fact, would cleanse the space. Some of my thoughts on this project. I think I did alright. The pattern was a little more nitpicky than I originally thought that it would be, or should be. But overall, I like the way the dress came out. I'm actually not too sad about how much room I have in the sleeves. I thought it would be too much. It wasn't that bad when I tapered it down just a little bit. The cuffs, you can't tell, are sort of not the way, they don't lay correctly, because I added 2 tacks, one on either side, just to sort of make them do what I wanted. The collar, I did definitely forget to understitch, and I can tell, but I don't know if anyone else can really tell. I wish the little flaps that are next to, these thingies, I wish they were a little more set farther apart. I wish I would have pulled them, but I guess I couldn't have known that. I mean, I could have if I did a whole mock-up, but I just did the bodice. So there's that. And I can actually say that I am not safety pinned or pinned in any of this. It is actually all done. I even put in a hook and eye at the waist. Look at me go. If you enjoyed this sewing journey along with Miss Scarlett, please do make sure you click that like button. And you should subscribe for more endeavors of sewing and pattern goodness as we go along. I'm debating a little catchphrase called Friends Sew with Friends. Let me know if you like it. And we'll see you next time. I don't know why. I just enjoy it. Welcome back, detectives, to the final installment of the Clue series with the character reveal of Miss Scarlett. That was weird. Hi, my name is Stephanie Canada. I deal with all types of things. Sewing, history, crap, words, not there. Hi, my name is Stephanie Canada. I deal with all types of things vintage. Sewing. This is not helpful. You're just making crap up now. So after a good solid week and a half of attempting to find this fabric and just sucking it up and using the stuff I have at home, which is good for your budget, but not for your mental capacity,